Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. I hope everybody's having a good week thus far. Today is Tuesday, September the um, Tuesday, September the um, it's Tuesday, September the 2nd, 2025. Um, so today, let's see, we're still giving people a chance to come in before we get started, of course. Um, so, anyways, um, let's see. So, friendly reminder to everybody, of course, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So, hopefully, everybody had a happy Labor Day holiday. Uh, ah, hello. I haven't seen you in a while there, Borculus. No corner of the globe is safe from anything. All right. ah. Anyways, all right. So we got some people in here now. So guess I'll talk about what's on tap for tonight. Got a couple articles I'm going to go over. One from Bounding into Comics, the other from Bleeding Fool, including I guess the first article we're going to be looking at is I guess a Marvel comic exec editor says no point fighting AI. We'll find out a little bit more about that. And also, from Bleeding Fool, there's an article about baby boomers' impact on culture. So we'll take a look at that. We'll also have the wrestling wrap up. Get caught up on last night's Monday Night Raw, including a major match announcement for WrestlePalooza coming up um, in about 2.5 weeks here. Um, then we'll of course we'll wrap things up with this day in each history. Before we get started though, I do need to go off camera here for a moment, so just give me a sec here. I'll be right back. All right. Well, anyways, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and get started? Um, to my Rumble and my YouTube viewers. Again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and/or ask questions. and I will try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's go ahead and get started. Then let me go find the first article for the evening. All right, so here we go. Single boost is going to be. All right, so Marvel Comics exec editor says no point fighting AI in creative fields. Quote, the software is undeniably dangerous. It's also pretty fun to use, unquote. All right, so actually, I do need to do one more thing before I get started here. So let me once again go put some music on for a moment. Right now, I'll be right back. All right, so hopefully that's the last of the interruptions that were there. But anyways, let me just check one more thing. Again, if you guys haven't already, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream. See if we can get some more friendly people to engage. If you appreciate it, also if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So let's get into this article then. Okay, so article by Spencer McCulley, published today. I'll read off the title. Marvel Comic executive editor. There's no point fighting AI in creative fields. Quote: the software is undeniably dangerous. It's also pretty fun to use. Unquote. So let's see what this double talk comes out to here. In offering a particularly eye-raising take on his industry's current hot button issue, Marvel Comics executive Tom Brevoort, this guy again, says that rather than continuing to try and fight the crashing tide that is AI generation software, creatives of all stripes should instead accept the technology's existence and instead focus on making sure the new status quo is, quote, proper and fair and equitable, unquote, to those involved. Brevoort, who also serves as the current X-Men line editor, offered his thoughts on the controversial topic in the opening of his opening to the latest of his weekly Man with a Hat Substack blog. Quote, there's obviously been a lot of concern about the impact that AI programs are going to have on the creative arts. How such programs remix and repurpose the works of other artists without credit or recompense. And these are all very sound arguments and matters that are going to need to be worked out. Quote, by the same token, the history of human innovation proves pretty conclusively that once something is discovered, all efforts to halt its further use are likely to be in vain. Technology changes the world, whether we want it to or not. So it falls to us to make sure those changes are proper and fair and equitable. Unquote. From there, Brevoort then revealed that rather than just an errant thought, he was prompted, in parentheses, no pun intended, to share his thoughts after, quote, messing around with Google's Gemini AI program for a little bit this past week, unquote. Quote, and with it, I generated a couple of things that I'm going to share with you here. Irresponsible? Probably. But for all that the software is undeniably dangerous, it's also pretty fun to use, unquote. As subsequently presented by Brevoort, his AI-generated request included, quote, a movie poster graphic, unquote, for his blog. Quote, I have no idea who Rex Fury or Max Midnight are, but both of them have excellent names. And the system wasn't smart enough not to list my first name twice. A relatively basic error. Still, this is kind of a cool image, unquote. And a matching logo, quote unquote, to accompany it. Quote, I have to say, this is actually pretty good. I'm not going to use it for anything. I'm just sharing it for fun here. But that isn't bad. Such is the seductive allure of AI, unquote. While coming from anyone else, this opinion would be nothing to write home about, especially given that how it's in line with most people's feelings on the matter. What makes Brevoort's stance on the creative world's upcoming AI status quo particularly eyebrow-raising is the fact that rather than going to the mat for Marvel Comics' wide roster of talent and openly doing what he could to help establish some amount of internal guidelines and protections against the technology, he has instead essentially thrown up his hands and given in to the, quote, if you can't beat them, join them mindset. And I kind of picked up on that from these comments too. Even before Spencer said that. That's exactly what I was thinking too when I was reading Brevoort's comments here. And I'm pretty sure that most people would probably pick up on that as well. It almost does seem like it's kind of a if you can't beat them, join them kind of mindset, as Spencer put it. And given both the public general misunderstanding of AI, as well as corporate America's hunger to replace any and all humans with robots in order to save a dime, well, let's just say that it's hard to imagine Brevoort's indifference coming across to said Marvel talent as anything but a threat to what little job security they have. Which is probably why, you got, there's another reason why you got this rise in the independent comic scene, like with Comicsgate and all that, and with some of the guys that are my buddies here, like guys like the Metal from Vomitorium, Rick Piper, Cross Comics, Apex Comics, Rex from, Devil Flyer Momentum, Shadowhawk, Eric and Boyd, Omer Glitch, you name them. So RJ Carter even, my buddy RJ. So all right, so it looks like that we're done with that article. Thought that was actually going to take a little longer than it did, but that went kind of quickly. So we'll get ready to move on to the next article I had for tonight then. From Bleeding Fool. Now this one I do know is a bit longer from what I saw. All right, so the IPs that ate the world. IPs that ate the world. Article by Brian Niemeyer. So not an Avi article this time. Got somebody else's point of view here. September and published today, September 2nd, 2025. So let's take a look at this. By the time baby boomers hit their 30s and 40s, their cultural house had already undergone a complete teardown and rebuild. Every picture and stick of furniture had been tossed out and replaced wholesale. The generation that grew up with Leave It to Beaver and Roy Rogers entered adult life to find Star Wars, The Simpsons, and NWA on every screen and speaker. I wonder if that's National Wrestling Alliance. Well, if that NWA though, if they're talking about the National Wrestling Alliance, but then again, that the National Wrestling Alliance came into existence in 1948. They could be talking about the rap group, so which is probably what they are when they say speaker here. So entire genres like punk and hip hop had emerged while they were in college. Whole new media like videotapes, CDs, compact discs, and video games sprang out of nowhere in less than a decade. Boomers watched the Beatles go from mop-top teens to robed mystics and then vanish, replaced by Bowie, Madonna, and Nirvana. 70s, 80s, 90s. All right, so I get it. Yeah, the NWA they're probably talking about then as the rap group. Boomers experienced a complete cultural turnover by the time they settled into middle age. Whether they liked it or not, the world they passed on to their kids didn't look like the one they inherited. It was newer, louder, faster. And theirs, not so much for their children. Generation X and Generation Y, especially the latter, live in an entertainment landscape that looks suspiciously like the one they grew up with. If you're a Gen Y man in your late 30s or early 40s, you will recognize the standard list of entertainment options. Watch the latest Ghostbusters sequel. Binge Stranger Things for 80s callbacks. Buy the new He-Man toy line. See Beetlejuice 2 or Deadpool 3. Rewatch The Matrix or The Phantom Menace with your kids. Fire up Final Fantasy VII again, this time remade and resold in parts. Download an officially licensed G.I. Joe mobile game. Check out the latest retro-style synthwave album on Bandcamp. Boot up an indie game that looks like it escaped a 1997 demo disc. That's a Nickelodeon, I guess, stage right there. Unlike the baby boomers, the IPs that dominated our childhoods never left. In fact, they're more entrenched than ever. While boomers saw their childhood icons replaced by wholly new properties, we got the corporate IP death cycle. The big studios aren't just mining the 80s and 90s, they've built an entire economy on them. How did it happen? That does sound like a very interesting article, perspective wise. And again, a friendly reminder, if you guys haven't already, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Awesome. Anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. That goes for both my YouTube and my Rumble viewers. All right. Let's see. The simple answer is that the boomers still control the organs of culture. Instead of making room for fresh blood, the standard story goes, they strip mined their kids' memories for profit. Think IPs like Batman, Transformers, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. After all, those brands have been running on recycled nostalgia loops since the Bush Senior administration, 1989 to 93. For those of you who don't remember. But there's a deeper, darker reason. The boomers grew up in a living culture grounded in tradition, faith, and national confidence. That culture could grow, evolve, and shed its skin when needed, even if it rebelled against itself. As it often did, it still had a deep root system to grow back from. Gen Y didn't get that benefit. They came of age in the uprooted rot of that system. The mass entertainment they inherited had already gone postmodern, irony poisoned, and soulless. For all the nostalgia it evokes, 80s and 90s media wasn't created to pass on values. It was manufactured to sell toys. Yeah, in fact, it actually led to a law. That culture, as it were, led to a law in 1993 about like children's programming and dedicating a certain number of hours a week to educational television. Now that Gen Y are in their 30s and 40s, there's nothing to replace the old IPs, just retreads. That's why Mario is still a billion-dollar franchise. It's why Top Gun 2 made more money in 2022 than the next 3 original films combined. And it's why Pokemon, Lord of the Rings, The X-Files, Jurassic Park, and Star Wars are still dominating headlines and ad budgets in 2025. Hollywood can't let go of pre-Ground Zero IPs because it has nothing to replace them with. Now, some people have argued that because, some people have made the argument, not just because of the points that Niemeyer here is making, but also because of the agenda pushing going on as well, that Hollywood might be just considered more, morally and creatively bankrupt, right? A lot of people would make that argument that Hollywood is just morally and creatively bankrupt, and therefore they can't really contribute anything positive or good anymore. But that's probably just the opinion of one segment of society. Um, so, anyways, again, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability if I can. So what happened next? What happens next? Will the 80s and 90s IPs hold their monopoly indefinitely? After all, nothing lasts forever. But the replacement for current year entertainment won't look like the boomer paradigm shift. And it won't come from Hollywood because the old studios are spent. Their only business model is necromancy, digging up the past and reanimating it just long enough to milk it again. Now, mind you, for those of us who do like older content, not just the stuff that was actually from the 80s, not just 80s retreads, but the actual original stuff from the 80s and 90s, and even earlier, 70s, 60s, 50s, even the golden age, right? You do have at least for cartoons, anyways. For cartoons, you have like Me TV Tunes, and Boomerang has somewhat brought back some of the older. Of course, now Boomerang is just basically just an arm of Warner Brothers and all its Warner Brothers, MGM, and all that. But still, you can probably find Paramount, all that, but you can still catch classic animated shorts like Warner Brothers animated shorts on such classic MGM shorts, famous studio shorts, all that. You can still catch classic Popeye, classic Bugs Bunny, classic Tom and Jerry, classic Woody Woodpecker on stations like Me TV Tunes, like channels like Me TV Tunes, Boomerang, So they haven't totally gone away. You want the good old classic stuff, as opposed to the retreads of the older stuff that we keep hearing about. So. All right, so getting back to the article here. All right, so what comes next will come from outside the machine. New art and new stories built on older foundations that sanitized Saturday morning cartoons and plastic lunchboxes. But getting to the promised land means digging deeper than Spielberg, Lucas, or even Roddenberry. It requires rediscovering the only Christian foundation strong enough to support real stories again. We're already seeking flickers of the revival in the indie sphere. Authors, game devs, and filmmakers have stopped asking permission and creating entertainment audiences didn't know they craved. A new class of creators aren't ashamed of beauty, nor are they afraid to believe in heroes or God. Some of the guys I mentioned earlier, like Rex Christian from Devil Flyer, Rick Piper from Cross Comics, R.J. Carter from Critical Blast, Omer Glitch, Eric Boyd, John Dillard, Shadowhawk, Apex from Apex Comic, see, Hex Allen, those creators right there. Spare no tears for the crumbling pop cult temple. Its collapse can only bring cleansing and clear the way for a new future. For something, obviously, for something to be born, something must die. That's a natural life cycle, right? We're not immortal, can't live forever, you know. The question isn't whether 90s nostalgia will last forever. It's what we built in its place. And whether we're ready to build it all or build it all. Because if we don't, the suits will keep selling us our own childhoods until there's nothing left to exhume. Alrighty then. There we go with that. Let me see. So now that we've kind of got through the two stories tonight, let me see where we're at in time here. We're just past the 30-minute mark. All right, I think I will go ahead and move on to the wrestling wrap up then, just to see, we'll get ready to look back at last night's Raw, look ahead to tonight's NXT, and then we'll get into this day in each history. So, all right. So last night's Monday Night Raw, which was the follow up to Sunday's Clash in Paris, PLE, came to us from the Paris La Defense Arena in Nanterre, France, with Wade Barrett and Michael Cole on commentary. The opening match of the evening saw in a women's tag team match the Kabuki Warriors of Asuka and Kairi Sane defeat the Judgment Day's Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez in 11:38. It was also revealed, I believe it was revealed after one of the first match. Well, so there was also a match announcement after this match involving the women's world title. As you guys know from about a couple weeks ago, Naomi had to vacate the women's world title due to the fact that she got pregnant. Stephanie Vaquer was set to take her on at Clash in Paris, but since that match had to be canceled, here's the match that was added for WrestlePalooza in just under 3 weeks here. So Stephanie Vaquer will be taking on former women's world champion Io Sky, who was also owed another title shot. Two of them will be facing off against each other at WrestlePalooza coming up on the 20th, and another attempt by the WWE to counter program AEW, as they'll be having All Out that week, I believe. Already signed, of course, for WrestlePalooza, I believe, is Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. So that match is going on as well. So you'll have Io Sky taking on Stephanie Vaquer for the women's world title at WrestlePalooza, as announced. The second match of the evening saw Finn Balor defeat Dragon Lee as Finn Balor's world tag team champion partner JD McDonough distracted the ref and Dragon Lee long enough for Balor to hit the coup de grace on Dragon Lee to get the win there. In a 6-man tag match, Penta teamed with the former world tag team champions of War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, to defeat Grayson Waller and the New Day, Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods in a 6-man tag match. Dominic Mysterio retained the Intercontinental title over AJ Styles with help from El Grande Americano. Came in and headbutted AJ before he had a chance to hit the phenomenal forearm on Dominic, only for Dominic to hit the frog splash for the 1-2-3. The division duo Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed defeated the team of Jey Uso and LA Knight. After the match, of course, Breaker and Reed decided to try to lay on more punishment onto Jey Uso, only for Jimmy Uso to come and save his brother, which many people are believing now Jimmy might be moving back to SmackDown to kind of help shore up that, the Usos coming back. A lot of people who have been saying that the Raw tag team team's been a little bit weak of late, bringing Jimmy back to team with his brother Jay to take on Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, or Braun Son, as some people are calling them. Is looking like a possible, possible feud that could be going on here. So now that we've gone over last night's news, let's look ahead to tonight's NXT. Look ahead to tonight's NXT, which will be on the CW, and I believe it will be from the Performance Center. Tonight's NXT will be coming live from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, on the CW. Already signed for the match card thus far. We'll see in a number one contendership semifinal match for the women's speed title to see who will next challenge Sol Ruca for that title. Candice LeRae will be taking on TNA's Xia Brookside. So one of those two will be moving on. The winner of that will be taking on one other person to set up a possible future opponent for Sol Ruca, who is currently the current WWE Women's Speed Champion, as well as being current WWE NXT Women's North American Champion. Lash Legend is set to take on Jada Parker. An 8-man tag match that was set up from last week's attack by Dark State. All 4 members of Osiris Griffin, Cutter James, Deion Lennox, and Saquon Sugars. 2 of those guys are the current NXT tag team champions. I believe it's Lennox and Sugars who are the NXT tag team champions. Take on the former NXT tag team champions Hank and Tank, along with NXT champion Obafemi and former North American champion Ricky Saints. Let's see now. So we do know that Roman Reigns has been written off TV for the foreseeable future. I believe it's because he's doing some film roles. It was also one of the things that happened at last night's Raw was that all right, I need to kind of step away from the computer again for a moment. I'll be right back. But I'll put some music on while I'm gone. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Had to go grab some water. Throat was starting to feel a little spiky. So, anyways, so last night they dropped more hints of the possible return of AJ Lee as well, as CM Punk confronted Becky Lynch as to why she basically cost him the world title. It's believed that they might be setting up not only for AJ Lee's return, but also for a possible mixed tag match between CM Punk and AJ Lee and Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, battle of husbands and wives there. Battle of married couples. But with that being said, of course, let's get ready to move on to this day in each history. Now that we've got to all that, let's see. Of course, tomorrow, of course, we will let you know what happened on tonight's NXT, as well as look ahead to tomorrow night's Dynamite as AEW continues to move towards its next pay-per-view, All Out. But with that being said, today is Tuesday, September the 2nd, 2025. So why don't we go ahead and take a look back at this day in each history. So 65, 85, and 50, and 2020. All right, so first off, I'm going to head back 75 years ago, as on this date 75 years ago today, back in 1950, Warner Brothers Looney Tunes cartoon The Ducksters premiered on this date in theaters on this date back in 1950. 75 years ago today, The Ducksters premiered in theaters. The Ducksters is a 1950 Warner Brothers Looney Tunes tactical cartoon short directed by Chuck Jones and written by Michael Maltese. Michael Maltese, the same guy who who is the security guard in the You Oughta Be in Pictures mix of animated live action short. The cartoon was released on September 2nd, 1950, and stars Daffy Duck and Porky Pig. The title is a pun on the 1947 film The Hucksters, and the cartoon is a parody, largely based on the popular game and quiz show Truth or Consequences. Oh yeah, so there you go. So 75 years ago today, the theatrical premiere of The Ducksters from Warner Brothers. So now getting ready to move on to the next piece in each history. As of course we move ahead to the year 1965, I believe. Let me double check that. Yes, 1965. On this date, 60 years ago today, in 1965, that day in 1965, the 175th issue of Batman from DC went on sale on this date back in 1965. Of course, at the time, they were still known as National Periodical Publications. Featured the Earth One Batman, as well as Earth One Robin, Commissioner Gordon, Harriet Cooper, who is of course big part of the live action TV series in the late 60s. The story was the decline and fall of Batman, as written by Gardner F. Fox, penciled by Sheldon Moldoff, inked by Joe Giella. The synopsis finds ex-con Eddie Rep creates a device which can create ghost images. Eddie designs a special keyboard with which he can control the ghost and enable them to interact with solid objects. Vowing revenge upon Batman and Robin, Eddie creates ghosts of the dynamic duo. The ghosts then take the place of the real heroes, apprehending the criminals of Gotham. All right, so that's much of the stories we need to know for now. Let's see. And at this point in time, of course, DC has kind of some odd distribution patterns. So, anyways, so that 60 years ago, the 175th issue of Batman went on sale on newsstands on this date. So now, moving on to the next piece of niche history. As we move ahead to the year 1985, 40 years ago today. On this date, 40 years ago today, I believe this was probably the first of these events, produced by Championship Wrestling Florida, NWA territory based in Florida. On this date in 1985, with Gordon Solie and Mike Graham on commentary. The main event of this show saw Ric Flair retain the NWA World Heavyweight title in the best 2 out of 3 falls match over Wahoo McDaniel. The Road Warriors defended the AWA World Tag Team titles against Harley Race and Stan Hansen. The match ended in a double countout. Rick Rude successfully defended the Florida Southern Heavyweight Championship over Billy Jack Haynes. Kendall Windham defeated Jack Hart for the Florida Heavyweight title. Now, for those of you, Jack Hart He's not part of the Hart family. Jack Hart would later be known as Barry Horowitz, former WWE enhancement talent. But before becoming Barry Horowitz, he was like many guys he would work the territories. And the opening match, of course, saw the Chavo and Hector Guerrero defeat the Grappler and Rip Oliver. We also saw Coco Samoa with Lady Maxine in his corner defeat Rip Rogers and Miss Burns in his corner. So I once again need to step away from the computer. Let me just. I need to step away from the computer one more time here. I'll be right back. Put the music on while I'm gone. Right back. All right, I'm back. So let's see. Let me try to get through this stuff a bit quicker here. So now, with that, we have one more piece in each history to go over. Moving ahead to the year 2020, 5 years ago today, on this date, 5 years ago today, in 2020, connects Oretsky OVA was released on this date back in 2020. 5 years ago today, connects Oretsky OVA, which was an OVA episode connected with the anime series itself, was released on this date 5 years ago. All right, so with that being said, I hope everybody enjoyed the show tonight. Hope you got a lot. I hope you got a lot out of it. Let's see. So we'll be back here, of course, tomorrow with more Neat News. Also, this Sunday, I'll be joined by Apex from Apex Comics, as we'll be looking back to comics that went on sale in June of 1940. Be focusing in this week on Fox Feature Syndicate. Still trying to figure out exactly which stories we'll read, but I should have that within the next couple of days here. So with that, I thank everybody for being here. Okay, so let me. So tomorrow, of course, we'll have more Neat News. We will get you all caught up on the wrestling wrap up. We'll get caught up on what happened on tonight's NXT. Look ahead to tomorrow night's Dynamite from AEW. We'll, of course, look back on all the stuff that happened in Nate's history on tomorrow's date, September 3rd. So, with that, I thank everybody for being here tonight. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.